I'm here with Kimball Farley, star of Hippo and co-writer of Hippo. I was talking with Mark about this, but I want to get your take on this. What was the writing process like between the two of you?
It was great. It was, we immediately, so we made this short film together called Andronicus back during COVID, and we just clicked immediately, and we had all these same favorite movies, and we were like, let's write some stuff together. Let's keep doing this. And so we wrote Hippo, and it was a very smooth, exciting process. We just, you kind of just get an idea for a character in your head, and Mark's looking at the big picture as a whole as the director, and I'm mainly looking at it from a character standpoint. To me, writing, I maybe one day I'll write something that's just like totally like not even a world I would exist in. I don't know. I mean, like, but for me, writing is really an extension of acting, and it's just a way I can live with the character longer and figure out decisions the character would make earlier, and learn about the character earlier. And so Mark's like, what kind of character do you want to play? And we were drawn to these. We did a version of like a sociopath like Hippo in the short film we made, but it didn't feel like we got to explore it all the way. And so we were like, let's explore that a little bit further. And it was a really smooth process, and it just came. It was very exciting, and we wrote it fairly quickly. We wrote it in, I think, July 2021, and I want to say we wrote it in like a month. And we would still chip at it leading up to filming, which wasn't until like November 2021. But we had a first draft fairly quickly, and it just all came together very fast.
Do you guys have like a part since you're writing this, or one or both of you look at it and go, not far enough, push it further? Because this seems like that kind of movie.
Totally. I mean, like I think for sure we wanted to like we it's funny, we had the intention, I think, starting it, of making it a little bit more psychological and dramatic, but then as you're writing it, you're having so much fun, and you're laughing a lot, and you're putting all these dark jokes in there, and you're like, I guess this is more of a comedy. And it's even discovering that it was a comedy wasn't something that we like really knew until we were on set, how funny it was. And people were coming up to me saying like, this is like a dark Napoleon Dynamite, while I was on set. And I was like, really? I don't think so at all. Like, I was like, I thought this was more like we need to talk about Kevin or something. But while writing, we were definitely like, I think when Darwin came in, that was when we were like, we just kind of like let our fingers take the wheel while writing. We were like, let's just like it all poured out like the darkest, weirdest stuff. And I think it did get to be a moment where we're like, is this too much? Um, but sorry, I was getting a phone call. I don't know if that affected my Zoom. I think there was a moment where we were like, is this too much? And I think before filming, I definitely was like, are we taking this too far? But that was just like my nervousness before. I think it turned out. I think because it's such a whimsical movie, it's the dark moments are more accessible.
Yeah. What's it like playing a character like this? Because like I could see someone watching this movie and knowing you only from this movie, and then seeing you walk the other way and just kind of like try to keep their distance.
That has happened. What's funny is like after it premiered at Fantasia, these very kind girls came up to me after the screening, and they were like, "You really remind us of this horrifying kid that went to our high school that was like very dangerous." And they were like, when you went up to doing the Q&A and you smiled and we saw you were a real person, we were like, oh, thank God he's not like a sociopath. But so there have been. It's funny because a lot of the people that I meet that have seen the movie that have not met me yet are they're luckily very surprised, and they're like, oh my God, you're nothing like Hippo. And I'm like, well, thank God. Like he's insane. But it's crazy playing this kind of character. It's like, because you are like studying a lot of sociopaths and freaks, and because he's very childlike, and he's very like, there is a sweetness and a naivete about him, but he is a sociopath, and he's scary. And so you do a lot of the days on, like, on set. There are some days that are easier than others, but like especially towards the end, when he has the ski mask and he's like fully gone, those days you're like kind of just very in it, and you're like, okay, I can't joke on set. I just have to like kind of stand off to the side, otherwise like I might lose this.
I think one of the unsettling things about the character, and especially you playing the character, is like he kind of nailed that. Like he's got to have some of that in him, but like clearly not just talking to you. But
Honestly, like part of me is
what's
like,
it what's it like understanding a character that much that's that depraved?
so, I mean, so that's a great question. And first, I just want to say thank you so much because that's a wonderful compliment. Because I think like that's the best thing you could hope for as an actor to have that kind of response. Because you're like, okay, I must have done something right. But it's funny because it is like at the same time you're like, it's you do wonder those things. I think every actor has within them like, um, it's funny. There, I'm gonna butcher this quote, but there's a Laurence Olivier quote where he says something along the lines of like, every actor has to have like a touch of madness in them, because you have to be able to portray like every walk of life. And so I definitely feel like there are moments where I'm a crazy person, and not in like a bad way, but I definitely feel like you know I have a fair degree of mental illness, and luckily not in a hippo sense, but yeah, like I think like sorry, what was the second half of your question?
Oh, I don't remember how you're not crazy, I guess. Oh,
Yeah,
how do you how do you tap into that when it's
yeah,
because I could see you playing like weird or crazy just in general, but like the hippo has a very specific kind of
yeah.
personality, and it's a real personality. And how do you tap into that not being that personality?
You're so right. Well, that's so yeah. So it's like I think it's just simply because yeah, I think there's a little bit of hippo in everyone, but it's about like finding it and turning on. Maybe not. And thank God that really is really rare and there's like the most minuscule amount. But like I think what helped me was like me and Mark both grew up in such like hyper religious communities, and we're not in those anymore. But it's like I think when you grow up in such a thing, it does like it shelters you a lot, and it's like, and so you feel like you have that degree of isolation in you, and I think in the way that it shelters you and isolates you, it does kind of maybe not like stunt your growth, but like you almost do sometimes. Like I feel like, and maybe this is just like most actors, but I do feel like there's eternally there will be a part of me that feels like all at once I'm a kid and I'm like 90 years old. Like I feel like I'm like there's one part of my brain that feels like I'm super old and I'm an adult, but there's one part of me that feels like I'm like 10. And maybe that's such like a weird thing to say, but I think like with Hippo, it's about accessing that like the kid in you because he really is like a case of arrested development. And then this sociopathicness was something I had to dwell on for a bit, but you do have to go to some darker places for sure.
Yeah. Well, Hippo will be in select theaters November 8th, and I'll leave you with this. Looking for a movie recommendation from you, a movie that's like really good that not enough people talk about, or
Oh
something that you
man.
see in this like literally no one even knows about this, but it's so good.
Oh, okay. One of my all-time favorite movies. I'm a huge fan of the actor Montgomery Clift. I think he's amazing. And people that maybe are familiar with like older Hollywood cinema might know this one, but my favorite movie of all time is A Place in the Sun with Montgomery Clift. I think it's
Nice.
amazing. It came out in 1951, I think, and it's based off of a novel written by Theodore Dreiser called The American Tragedy or An American Tragedy, and it's really really good. And Montgomery Clift's performance is amazing, and I believe he should have won an Oscar for it. And I believe he should have won an Oscar for everything he did. But that movie is amazing, and it's a great thriller, melodrama, all of those things. If you watch it, you will love it. Directed by George Stevens.
All right. Well, Kimball, thanks for joining me. Loved Hippo. I don't know what that says about me, but I did. And
Hey, there's a little bit of hippo in all of us. Thank you. I'm so glad you loved it.
yeah, hopefully it doesn't burn too bad. But
Yeah, yeah,
thanks for joining me.
of
And
course.
yeah, congratulations. This movie was awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you loved it. Have a wonderful day.
You too.